Thank you for tuning into Dirty Teeth and welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm going to talk about one of my favorite parts of any bike. As you may know, I love building custom wheels, and at the center of it all are the hubs. I've ridden pretty much every hub on the market. Chris King, DT Swiss, Industry 9, Hope, Stands, you name it. I've built plenty of wheels featuring Onyx hubs for clients, but somehow I've never gotten around to actually using them myself. Well, I can proudly say that I've now had the pleasure of thrashing my set of Onyx Vesper hubs for more than a year. You can tell mine are older because they have the original logo, whereas the new ones are shipping with a revamped version. I spent half of last year in Moab, Utah, so that means laps on the whole enchilada, Mag 7, Cocapelli, Captain Ahab, and all that techie rocky goodness. I also spent time bikepacking on the Arizona Trail and Colorado Trail, as well as my most demanding local trails here in Idaho. So, I figured it's time to have a little geek out sesh and share how they've fared so far. Here we go. Let's rewind for a sec. If you're not familiar with Onyx, they're based in Minnesota and they jumped on the scene around 2014. I first heard of them at Sea Otter Classic in 2016. The quick story is, a guy named Jim had a son that was getting into BMX racing. Jim wasn't impressed by the hubs on his kiddo's bike and thought he can design something with less drag and quicker engagement. Jim's family just happens to own a farm equipment manufacturing business, and he's personally had plenty of experience with machining. He also has knowledge of sprag clutches used for industrial applications, so he started tinkering. Cut to now, and Onyx offers a full line of high-end bike hubs, including options for BMX, mountain bikes, road bikes, fat bikes, and everything in between. And the sprag clutch technology is at the core of all their rear hubs, and it's what separates them from all the other bike hubs on the market. At least I don't know anyone else using this technology for bike hubs. If you do, let us know in the comments below. So what exactly is a sprag clutch? That's a great question, and honestly, I'm not the best person to explain all the tech. If you want a deep dive with all the inner workings, I suggest you give Onyx a call or do a Google search for images and videos. They're really quite interesting. For our purposes, just know that it's a clutch utilizing cams, or sprags, placed between two races. When not engaged, the clutch allows freewheeling or coasting. Once you start to apply power to the pedals, the sprags in the clutch rock slightly and act like wedges between the hub and the driver. This wedging or locking against the races happens no matter where they're positioned on the race. This means any power or torque is applied pretty much instantaneously with infinite points of engagement and minimal drag. With a traditional pawl system, the more points of engagement a hub has, the more drag is created. Ratcheting hubs with teeth and spring-engaged pawl designs are also noisy. I've always loved the Chris King buzz, or the sound of an Industry 9 hub. I think most of us associate it with quality and speed. Whereas Onyx rear hubs are virtually silent. So those are the main features or pros for the sprag clutch: engagement that is instant with infinite points, and creating virtually no noise. But with this comes one notable downside: the weight penalty. Sprag clutches rely on strong metal races, which translates to heavier hubs than other brands using pawl systems. How much heavier? On average, they weigh 100 to 200 grams more than most competitors of similar price and quality. If you want real-world specs, here you go. My Vesper 6-bolt rear hub with XD driver and Boost 148 spacing weighs in at 407 grams. According to Noble Wheels, the Industry 9 version of the exact same hub weighs in at 288 grams. That's a 119 gram difference, or a little over a quarter of a pound, which is pretty significant. If you're curious, my Vesper front hub weighs 172 grams, and the i9 front hub weighs 166. Accounting for variances in the scale, etc., that 6 grams is pretty negligible. Another important factor, and probably the most important factor for me, is reliability. Infinite engagement and all that jazz doesn't mean much if I can't trust the hub and I'm worried it's going to fail on me in the middle of nowhere on some remote bikepacking adventure. It's the reason I took extra time before delivering this long-term review. I'll give you my takeaway in a minute, but first let's briefly discuss the wheels as a whole for some context. Sure, I would have loved to mate them to some carbon hoops, but I was on a budget, so I went with Stands alloy rims. I've had great success with them over the years on my own bikes as well as with clients. We had some Crest MK4s at the shop, so I put them to use. I laced them up to some DT Swiss black double-butted spokes, and for fun, I added some purple nipples and matchy-matchy purple i9 valve stems. All the bits make for a trustworthy lightweight set of wheels at a reasonable price. Speaking of price, a Vesper rear hub currently goes for about $485, while the front costs about $225. So you're looking at roughly $710 for the set. Definitely an investment. For comparison, a set of Industry 9 hubs will set you back about $700, so pretty much the same. And a set of Chris King hubs go for a little over $900. So there's that. This brings me to longevity and durability. Before I forget, Vesper hubs are considered by Onyx to be their lightweight cross-country mountain bike offering. For larger riders and/or more massive bikes like tandems, e-bikes, and rigs decked out for bikepacking, they recommend their more robust classic hubs. If you're worried about reliability under heavier loads, that's an option. But I'm not a big guy, and even when bikepacking, I try to keep my kit tight and light, which is why I decided to put the Vespers to the test. I'm happy to report I've had absolutely zero issues with these hubs so far. The labyrinth seal between the hub shell and driver body does a great job keeping dirt and grime out of the internals. On the rare occasion you do need to clean the clutch, don't use any old grease or oil you've got laying around. There's only one grease approved by Onyx for use on their sprag clutch. It's called Kluber Isoflex LDS 18 Special A. It's not easy to find and it's even harder to pronounce, so I'll put a link in the description. Bikepacking inherently involves riding through challenging conditions. This can range from rain and water crossings, to peanut butter mud, to fine sand and gritty dirt, all of which wreak havoc on bearings. I recently checked my Vesper bearings before a trip, and one is finally starting to get a little friction, so I'll either repack it or swap it soon. But I haven't needed to change out any bearings so far, which is actually pretty surprising. This could be partially due to Onyx's modular free hub unit, or MFU. Sounds complicated, but it just means that the driver and sprag clutch are supported by a dedicated set of bearings, while the free hub body spins on its own separate set. Onyx claims that the modular design promotes longer bearing life. I'm inclined to agree because I don't think I've ever put this much torture on a rear hub without having to replace bearings. It joys me to say that these hubs are still spinning as smooth and fast and drama-free as they did on day one. I guess I should touch on service. In that regard, Vespers and Onyx hubs in general have pretty easy procedures. There are step-by-step videos available, so I'll spare you all the details. But it's easy to pop off the end caps and remove the axle and sprag clutch for inspection and cleaning. If you're comfy with bearing replacement and have the correct tools, that's straightforward as well. The bearing preload adjustment confuses some folks. The hub will have play when the wheel is out of the bike, but snugs up appropriately once it's clamped into the frame. Onyx also has a good video for this process. I've got to say that I've really grown to love these hubs. I'm hard pressed to find any negatives with them. I've already touched on price, but you get what you pay for, and all the high-end competing hubs are going to cost you around the same, if not more. That just leaves the weight penalty, which isn't as important to me for bikepacking. Now, if I was a competitive cross-country racer looking to shave grams every way I can muster, then it would probably be more of a consideration. However, Onyx also now offers hook flange Vespers. The rear weighs 371 grams, making it 37 grams lighter than the J-bend version, which I currently have. More importantly, the hook is designed specifically to mate with ultralight and ultra-strong bird spokes. If you go that route, the weight saved with the bird spokes versus traditional steel spokes pretty much cancels out the weight penalty. FYI, that's probably the route I'd go if I was building up my ultimate shred packing wheel set. Just saying. So weight and price are the only potential deal breakers I could come up with, unless you truly feel the need for loud hubs. The silence could be considered a con, but not for me. I've grown to love the peace and quiet of these hubs. It lets me tune into the sounds of nature around me, and I find myself paying attention to the interaction between my tires and the dirt. Those sounds provide valuable feedback while descending, and you don't get that with loud hubs. Just don't forget that it's much harder for hikers to hear you coming. I definitely scared a few when I first put these wheels on. And if your chain isn't clean, or your bottom bracket's creaking, or a brake rotor's rubbing, there's no way to mask the sounds. So it forces me to keep my bike in tip-top shape, or else I go insane with the little noises. Win-win. I also love the instant engagement and zero delay in power transfer. It's no wonder so many folks swear by them for BMX, and I'd really love to try this hub on a single speed. It's not a huge difference from my i9 hubs, but it's definitely noticeable. The way it engages is also different. It's hard to explain, but it's kind of a smoother, softer engagement. With pulse systems, you're either in or out, and it's more abrupt when it clicks in. This also breeds confidence on technical climbs. Knowing I can backpedal and then get instant power without ratcheting has helped me progress a bunch, especially on slow speed step-ups and slick rock features that I used to be too chicken to try. I can't really think of anything else, so I guess that's all for now. Don't get me wrong, I'm not denouncing pawl-based hub systems by any means. But I am definitely on board with Onyx and their sprag clutches. Let us know what your favorite hubs are, and if you've had any experience with Onyx hubs, don't be afraid to chime in the comments below. If you found this video useful, please give us a like, and if you're enjoying our mountain biking and bikepacking content, please consider subscribing to the channel. Until next time, ride bikes, give back, pay it forward. Thanks so much for squeezing dirty teeth into your busy schedule. Please help us reach more people and ensure you receive new videos by giving this video a like, subscribing to the channel, and clicking the notification bell. Until next time, ride bikes, give back, pay it forward.